one of my weaknesses, unfortunately, has been on to participate a lot on Twitter, and which I think I've been doing now for 10 years. So I've had countless conversations with people about stuff that we disagree on, from within the education trenches on things like reading and arithmetic to this transgender ideology. And people simply have these, or even teacher unionism is the other thing. And I think from so I also bring kind of a systems analysis to it. And then there's another kind of an emerging body of knowledge, which is, there's a guy, he's on Twitter as Rob K. Henderson, and he probably epitomizes this. And there are a few others where it's this body of knowledge about human behavior, and specifically about human behavior in groups, and how, and then when you get power dynamics, power differentiation between groups. So you have a more powerful group that has sort of access to resources that other people would like to have or don't have. And all of these dynamics are playing out really obviously now. And one of the reasons they're so obvious is because they play out also on Twitter. So there was a really astute observation made by Jonathan Kay a while ago about how media, how the people in the press interact on Twitter, where they've become sort of a self-managing. It's almost like they're performing for each other rather than worried about how they're doing their jobs. And so to address the dynamics of how the press is covering this issue, for example, one has to appreciate the group behavioral incentives that are acting on them. So now when a reporter writes a story about, for example, what an awful person is running for trustee because they don't believe in transgender ideology, all the other reporters like and retweet that. And they gain status in the little group because they hate these transphobes. And so the way to get around that is not to try to address them on the topic, because they're not capable of thinking on the topic at all. They're thinking on the basis of how they maintain their status and position in their group, whether within their workplace or within the community of reporters overall. And that's so much the case within the school system as well. I mean, you can go in and you can talk to a teacher till you're blue, or to a principal about, how dangerous it is to tell a 14-year-old something that will lead to her choosing to be sterile by the time she's 18. But none of that will matter to the person, because they know they can't say anything. They know they can't say it in the staff room. They know they can't say it in the union hall. They know they can't say it in their, alumni group or anywhere else. They know that they'll get, canceled, for lack of a better word. And so in a way, it's almost, I think, smarter to straight up address the power dynamics than it is to try to argue whether or not it's smart to sterilize a 14-year-old. I mean, it's dumb to sterilize a 14-year-old. Clearly, I mean, the stupidity of it is beyond obvious, unless you belong to this little insider group that almost has, where the condition of entry, the condition of belonging, is almost to believe in this improbable notion. There's some great writing on that topic. There was actually a really good article. I just tweeted it yesterday, I think, sometime, about how even the more intelligent people are, the more likely they are to believe in these improbable things. They rationalize in a way that makes them feel special for believing them, or something like that. I'm misquoting. I read it quite quickly, but it's great literature on sort of the behavioral front that I think gives us way more leverage about how to combat it than finding the weaknesses in their argument, because there's nothing but weaknesses in their argument, right?
Yeah, I really find, that only an intellectual can come up with such justifications for such poor behavior, like you really gotta be smart to trick yourself into thinking that this stuff is okay.